Welcome back to the broadcast. Well, when a little boy has a near-death experience and claims to have visited heaven, his father's life is turned upside down as he works through what to believe. The touching New York Times best-selling book, Heaven is for Real, is now a motion picture starring Greg Kinnear. Amy recently sat down with Greg and several other stars in the movie. Take a look.
Oh, I just saw Heaven is for Real, and powerful movie, powerful. I loved every minute of it. And as the director, you've done obviously a lot of box office hits, and I read that you also have taken seminary and you've taken religion in school. So it didn't surprise me that I knew that about you, that you would consider taking on this spiritual film. What are you wanting your audience to take from this film?
I want the audience to do what I hope is true for me in it, to feel that doubt is not a sin. It's not something that's unhealthy. It's not something that's wrong. It's not something that leads you in the wrong direction. And outside the Christian faith, people tend to think that those within the faith no longer have doubts. They've taken their heads out of their bodies. And I think really faith is the courage that exists in the presence of doubt. It's like when you're a parent, you can't call time out. You have to go. You have to be present. You have to live and love. And that's where we are in this sliver of time we call life. So I want this movie to reach out to the audience and say, you know, those questions that you have, we have them too. And here's the way we've responded in a way that we hope will let us feel and let you feel that there's reason for joy.
Do you believe heaven is for real?
Yeah, yeah. And I also believe that, as with C.S. Lewis, that everyone who gets there will be surprised.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Oh, I love that. I just got chills.
Thank you, Margot. We got another script officer.
Good.
Just getting ready to quote C.S. Lewis.
She was on the tip of my tongue. Margot, okay, y'all need to know, I grew up as a pastor's daughter.
Oh.
Okay, so I was coming into this movie with probably a little bit of a different approach than most people would be. Large church, and
Baptist?
no,
Oh.
full gospel.
What?
Full gospel.
Yeah.
Non-denominational.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think.
Yes, very much so. So I knew a lot about church, too much. And so I really honed in on your character because I know that lady. Actually, I know a few Nancys in my life.
Yes, I understand.
And she's the one who knows too much, and she talks too much, and she carries a lot of load personally. But at the end of the day, she would be the one that was there for whatever anybody needed. And that's why I loved your character so much.
No, that's nice. That's what I loved about it. About her.
She was awesome. She was also the pivotal point in the movie because I think it was her faith and more really her fear that kind of kept everybody like unsure where we were going here.
That's so good because that's just what you said.
Is that what you wanted?
That's what I wanted, and that's just what we said. Randy had said about our fear, or somebody said it. And I have fear, so it really helps me to see the light.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna have one more question with Mr. Greg. All right, so you were the pastor, Todd.
I'm envisioning you silently judging me in the theater as the daughter of a pastor.
I told
and
y'all.
I'm seeing my life and performance flash before my eyes. Go ahead.
It was good.
Okay.
It was
all right.
good. And I was judging because of my experience in the past.
Yeah.
But what I loved is that here he was, and Dallas is not a small town, so we didn't have a small church. But in this case, he was a father, he was a pastor, he was a firefighter. He had all these jobs, right?
Yeah.
And he was facing a lot of trouble. One, believing his own little small child. I have small children, and I've had stories told to me that I wasn't quite sure I believed, but I felt I needed to believe.
Yeah.
He was struggling with his wife. He was struggling with Nancy and her putting pressure on him. and he was also facing the ridicule of his own small town. And I believe that being from where I'm at, that's one of the toughest places a pastor could be, is wondering whether or not what you had been preaching from the pulpit really was believable.
Yeah.
Really was real.
Well, good. I have newfound respect for that vocation. I mean, to stand in front of a large group of people, you feel very vulnerable, you know, expressing yourself and trying to send an idea out to them, particularly to a group of people who are looking for something and searching for something. So, but that kind of composite of a guy who was a lot of things really rung true to me. You know, he wasn't a you know, overly reverent preacher. That he was a real man who loved his wife and did other things. Was made him accessible to me in a way that I think I might have been a little thrown if it hadn't have been that way, to play that kind of sanctimonious, you know, or what can sometimes be represented as a sanctimonious preacher. He was a real guy, and he had a real experience, and he, you know, rather than him, you know, say, well, of course you saw heaven, son. That's the starting point for him to have to go through this internal struggle of his own and ask deeper questions than I think he ever expected to. So I was really caught off guard by how effective that was.
Well, I thank you all for being a part of this movie, and it's a true film of faith, hope, and real love. And I'm honored that you could be a part of such a powerful film. I want to go see it again.
I want to tell you, C.S. Lewis also said pride is the greatest of sins, but I'm really proud of the way we portrayed church people, the reality of being a pastor, being a person in a church, that when the people in the church had their doubts, that they weren't like the mob in Frankenstein with their pitchforks, you know, and that a pastor really does love his wife. A person in the church who needs to stand up and object and say, I don't like where our church is going, is fighting for something they love. We had a screening in Mississippi with a group of pastors and their families, and one of the young women, like you, said, you know, I've been in the kitchen when the glass broke in the sink, and my parents were having an argument, and the phone would ring, and my mother would answer the phone and go, hello.
Praise the Lord.
that happened. So that's high praise.
Been there, done that. I've seen a lot of things.
Really high praise. Thank you.
Yes, thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you.
Opens in theaters nationwide today, and for showtimes, head over to thebroadcasttv.com. Click on today's links.